Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Monday Night hanging right here on Mondays because it's easier to just do it on a Monday than change the name. I'm Ben. If you're here for the first time, welcome. Please subscribe. If you're returning, welcome back. Speaking of welcoming backing, sure, those are words. Tim Pierce in the house. Welcome back, my good friend.
That was expertly handled. Welcoming backing. Should I see the chat right now? How do I see the chat?
Possibly on the right-hand side, there might be a toggle between private chat and comments. I'm not sure on an iPad.
Oh, well, I'll just wait and see if I can. So I'm not seeing anything yet. So, oh, well.
Well, we do have a bunch of people in here, and welcome everybody. And if you have a question for myself or Tim, just do the @ sign, and I will grab them. Question marks in front. Perfect. Josh Tambrick, he knows how it works. Or stand out with the super chat. All the above work well for us. Josh asks, for Tim, you've stated that your action is super low. Are we talking 1 millimeter off the 12th fret?
You know, forgive me, but I never have measured anything like that. So I can't really answer your question. I want perfect necks, basically. If I have a guitar in 2023, I want the neck to be absolutely perfect and the frets to be absolutely perfect. Nothing less. So that's what I seek. And the guitars I end up keeping, like this one, I got it brand new. Is this the same one I had last time? I wonder.
I believe so. If not, you have two beautiful, identical.
So I got it brand new, and the frets were, I ordered it on Reverb, and I loved the guitar, but the frets were too small. So I had it refretted by an amazing guy, and he got it 90% there, and then had another amazing guy polish the frets. So I went to great expense and great length to refret a brand new guitar to get it where I wanted. I'm just at the point where I want a perfect neck, and I don't. Most necks that come on Gibsons and Fenders, they're within a particular tolerance that most guitar players accept. I'm not interested anymore. It has to be perfect.
Sure, I get it. It makes perfect sense to me. And
want to find chat if I can.
It would be a combination of fret size, neck relief, action, all the above to get that perfect symmetry, if it were.
Well, and you can see that I tend to leave the cover off because sometimes over 3 or 4 weeks the neck can shift a little bit, and I'm constantly. It's a miracle. Like you can just go 1/4 tone, and all of a sudden it's perfect again. I twist the neck all the time to get it right.
That's why it's adjustable.
Yep.
Nice. Everyone's saying nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Comments?
Randy Crooks asks, have you ever had any dealings with David Gilmour?
I wish. I just finished a record with a gentleman named Patrick Leonard, who's a really wonderful keyboard player and composer and friend, and he did a solo record, and it's me and Patrick Leonard and a couple other guitar players, Martin Barr from Jethro Tull, me and David Gilmour and Martin Barr and Patrick Leonard and James Hara are the guitar players. So that's as close as I've gotten, is to share a little bit of real estate. So no, short answer, no. I wish. I certainly wish.
Sure, I get it. And that happens, right? When someone has a project and you bring in various people to play various parts, it's not like we're not doing it all live off the floor.
Well, there's a real benefit. A lot of great records have 2 or 3 or 4 guitar players on them, and I'm a real proponent of that because I have my particular, ideas and my enthusiasm for certain parts and sounds, and it's better to bring everybody in fresh, let them just kind of wail and get in and get out. And then if you need more, have somebody else come in and do the same thing. So, it's just, guitar is one of those things that there's a lot of colors, there's a big palette of colors that happen when you have 3 or 4 brains on the session. If you look at a lot of records, you'll see maybe 1 bass player and drummer, but you'll see 2 to 4 guitar players on a lot of great records.
Sure. Michael Easter has a great question. He says, Tim, has your taste for harmony changed over time, I wonder if we are drawn to dissonance as we get older.
In my particular case, I'm drawn to both. I'll tell you what I'm drawn to is cleaner guitar sounds now. You know, it's funny. A lot of my heroes, like take Larry Carlton, for example, over the course of his career, his playing got a little bit cleaner as far as the tone. And I understand that now. I want to hear, and partly the reason I guess I don't use fuzzes a lot is because I really like to hear the tone of the guitar. Now let's get back to your question about harmony. I like to lose. I like to use dissonance in just as an event. And beautiful dissonance. I mean, that is one of my favorite intervals. A major seventh chord is like my favorite chord, and the minor ninth chord, which also has that same interval.
Right.
So, I think you just had me answer the question in a new way, and I just say, yeah, I love dissonance in you know, just hidden.
Yes.
Yes.
People are saying drawn to more melodic stuff. Sure, you know, I get it. I think tastes evolve, and
yeah. I mean, I've always been drawn to melodic playing, you know, really to a fault, probably. Just I'll play too pretty, you know, some of the time. Then it's time to rock out, you know. If you play something pretty, then play something ugly.
Love it. Do you have an opinion on tone wood?
I don't. I mean, I'm really trying to be kind to people who don't believe in it and people who do believe in it. I had a friend from Taylor. I don't know if you guys know Tim Godwin. It's the artist rep at Taylor. Spoke a couple of days ago about the tone wood on the top of an acoustic guitar, and I said, well, there's a person who believes in tone wood, and then there are other people who don't believe in it. I think I'm going to be neutral about that. I do love light guitars, so that's not an answer to your question, but I don't know. I think I'll let somebody else decide that debate.
I say it depends. Like an acoustic guitar, probably, because it is an acoustic guitar, but if we're plugging something in that's using an electromagnetic pickup into a saturated gain tone, I don't think it really matters as much.
I'm sure you're right.
You know, and especially like if you're playing, you know, and it's nothing against, say, heavy metal, but if you're playing like a triple rectifier, super high gain, I think the pickups are more important than the wood used in the guitar.
I agree. Absolutely, Ben. So I'm able now to look at the questions as they go by. So
awesome.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Lighter guitars seem to ring out more, and some heavy ones do too. But you know, I'm just you know, I like light guitars. I really, really do. And maybe they do ring more. Maybe they do.
Some people say, yeah, lighter guitars are more resonant. I don't know.
Hello.
But then they say heavier guitars are more sustained. So I don't know what's resonance versus sustain.
Yeah.
Exactly. OU812 says, I think it's all about how it feels in your hands, regardless of what you're playing. That's true.
Yeah, and I watched a wonderful interview with Dan Huff and Tom Bukovac. I worked with Dan when he lived in LA, and Dan actually hired me to play on a Rascal Flatts record out here. So I got to be his guitar player for a week, which was amazing. And Dan was saying some fascinating stuff, which I really agree with. He said he doesn't really think there's such thing as a bad guitar sound. He only thinks there are good and bad guitar parts. He said, you know, if it's a great guitar part, a bad sound can actually make it great. I mean, which is an awesome thing to say. So kind of goes back to what you're saying. It's like everything works. Everything's a tool if you just use it right. And
yeah, I was watching.
Watch that interview if you want. Dan Huff is a hero of a lot of ours. And,
yes, yeah, I watched that today, and it was great.
Yeah, it was
I
great.
love very self-deprecating individual, and then he brought out the guitar. We're like, that's it. That's the guitar.
Yeah. And you know, the thing that was amazing about him is that we were all here in LA working in the late 80s, and he showed up and he was able to kind of do everybody's style, and he was a super hard worker, so he kind of inserted himself to the top of the session scene immediately. And you know, he could was that Luke? No, that was Dan Huff. Was that Paul Jackson? No, that was Dan Huff. A lot of people were kind of Landau, the same area. A lot of people were kind of like, hey, he's copying my style. But then Dan actually took it further and kind of like went, okay, I'm going to sing like Lou Gramm. I'm going to play like Eddie Van Halen, and I'm going to start Giant. And there was like, when I heard Giant and I heard him sing and play that, and it was like, oh, wow, he's even more, you know, I even feel worse now. But the great thing is then he moved away, and then you know, he wasn't, you know, it's great when a guy like that leaves town, because then 5 other guitar players, you know, work a lot more.
Right. I agree on that one. Yes, and how he's taking over Nashville. And Modern Vintage has a good one. How would you describe the Wizard amp sound? What made you move on from them years ago? Thanks.
I liked that amp a lot, but it didn't have enough bottom end. And honestly, it was almost as good as a Park. So when I discovered this Park, I think it's called a 45-100 or something. This is a special edition Park, but the Park gives me, it's like, the Park is like super hi-fi, loud and clean. And when I pair it with my 1978 Celestion G12M65s, it's big and fat and clean. Breaks up a little bit, but it has more bottom end, more size. You know, hopefully the words do it justice. The Wizard was great, but this is just a little bit better. And you know, when you get into these things, a 5% improvement is everything. You know,
Sure.
like a lot of things in life. The difference between 95 and 100% is a big difference. So I hope that the Wizard is great, super high quality, wonderful, but didn't have enough bottom end. Actually, if you want to be, you know, that was the biggest thing.
BC Rich 581 has a good question here. Did the studios keep regular hours working in your session heyday, or were you expected to be at the top of your game around the clock, depending on the date and session?
Oh, it was always around the clock. That's one of the things I disliked about the job mostly, is that because studios were booked on 12-hour-a-day blocks and they were quite expensive, the idea was that you worked 12 hours so that you could get everything out of the situation. And you had the musicians for 12 hours and there was cartage and everything. So the idea is that you would work 10 or 12 hours. And we did that a lot. We all did that a lot. And then at a certain point in your career, you ask the question, what are the hours? And if it's more than 8 or 10 hours, then you go, no, I'll do 9 hours for you. So at a certain point, you have to set boundaries. But in the heyday, everybody was so ambitious that it was all 12-hour days, 7 days a week, holidays. Yeah, it was, you give up your life for it. Absolutely. And I did. I went 12 years without a vacation, 12 full years.
Right. Because, yeah, you take time off, it's one of those out of sight, out of mind things, right?
Well, it's a little worse than that in a way.
Okay.
If you take time off, they hire the other guy, and maybe the other guy is the guy they use for the rest of time.
Right.
So that's the hard thing. You know, if they hire, you know, the other guy who's great, they may go, oh, we'll use him from now on. And that's why people show up for every gig. And, you know, and you could, you know, I would travel and not tell people I was away. And if something really important came up, I would just fly right on back. But you can't do that if you're on vacation with your wife or your girlfriend. So,
right.
Yeah, it's just my wife just accepted that this was the job for a while, and there you go.
Sure. Richard Nagamitsu asks, what are some pieces of gear you've held onto for the longest time?
Oh, it's a great question. Divided by 13 RSA 23, which was designed by Fred Tacone and Rusty Anderson. Really, really great amp. The Kahayan amp switcher. This is a new version of something I've used forever. The custom audio electronics boost line driver, which is an upgraded microamp, use that. And of course the old, I mean, Buka calls it the no balls, but Bukovac gave Shanks an ODR1 many years ago, and then maybe another one, and then Shanks gave me one. And so the ODR1, the early ODR1 from the 90s, I use that a lot. I have a friend who's trying to clone it right now. I think soon there'll be a clone. I think there isn't quite one yet. There's a Naylor Superdrive 60. I have one of those still. I won't sell that. Lots of guitars that I won't sell. So yeah, there are things you can use for the rest of your life. Absolutely.
Sure.
The Echo Park by Line 6. It gets an incredible infinite delay sound. I'll use that forever. Neo Ventilator for Leslie. I have a Boomerang down here I use a lot. I've certainly stuck with the H9s by Eventide for a long time.
Sure.
The VB2 Vibrato. I now have the Wazacraft. That's still a favorite of mine. Gosh, there's so many. That's a great question.
That is a good question. Graphite and Cigar says, how did you come to record Runaway?
Well, I was 23 years old, and I was in New York working on John Waite's Ignition album, and I was working for Neil Giraldo, who was producing it, which was an amazing experience. And John Bon Jovi was living in the apartment upstairs because his uncle, Tony Bon Jovi, was running and owning the power station. And John was down there every day, and he heard me play through the door, or he probably walked in the studio too. And he said, hey, come do some demos for me. So he put together a band with Roy Bittan from the Bruce Springsteen's band and a couple other guys, and the track, and then I overdubbed. And so those were demos. We did like 8 songs, and one of them they put on the record, gave us full credit. And yeah, it was just a wonderful thing to, a lucky thing to have done. I was in the right place at the right time, just to be heard by John, and happy to do his demos. It's wonderful. I still have a vivid memory of doing the guitars on that song. We were in a small room upstairs at the power station after doing the tracking. Yeah, a very vivid memory of it. I did that, some of it on my Schecter Stratocaster, and then I probably did the solo either on a BC Rich Mockingbird or with the BC Rich guy here, or a Les Paul that was very heavy, actually. That first Les Paul I had was very heavy. Anyway,
nice.
Really fun.
Interesting. Ty Hub asks, Tim, do you have a favorite pickup type or combination, and what draws you to it?
Okay, so my favorite pickups, I have Rig Rundown coming from Premier Guitar a day after tomorrow, so I've prepped heavily on trying to for that. And this guitar has a pair of pickups in it made by Rob at Arcane Pickups. It's Arcane. And he has basically developed what is going to be a signature pickup for me. And they're based on early 2000 Tom Holmes pickups. Tom Holmes pickups are kind of expensive at this point. And I fell in love with these pickups that I had. And I said, Rob, my favorite pickups are Tom Holmes pickups. And he said, oh, I used to know him, and when we did I did his actual licensed Japanese version, so I know exactly what they are and how they are, and he nailed it. And so these are going to be my signature pickups. They'll be available at Arcane probably in 3 or 4 months. Rob says they're not hard to make. We're going to short run. So beyond that, the standard of pickups, I mean, I have some Kinman noiseless pickups and guitars. I really like the Marzio Virtual Vintage single coil Strat pickups. But every pickup maker seems to be making amazing pickups at this point. And I don't think you can go wrong. Everybody has kind of chased the vintage aesthetic. And I have another Les Paul, a Murphy Lab that I got about a year ago that has, are they called the Custom Buckers? The new...
Right.
Those sound amazing. I mean, I hate to give Gibson a compliment, but they sound amazing. They really are like Telly on steroids pickups. So I could talk a lot about this. The thing is, I like silent pickups. So moving forward, I'll be seeking the P90s that have noise canceling, or or the single coil Strat pickups that have noise canceling, or Sir still has a backplate that it's not on this guitar. What am I doing? But that's on my Nash Strat that brings down the hum mostly. That has Lawlers in it. Tyson Tone is good. Monty's is good. Ron Ellis is amazing. It's on and on and on. I mean, the pickups out there, they're also great.
I agree. Thank you for the super chat, Vims. He says, no question, just a thank you for the show.
Oh, you're welcome. It says my mic's not so good. Yeah, I'm doing this on my iPad, and next time I'll do it on the laptop. My laptop we're actually trying to load up Tonex presets. I got a Tonex box that I'm going to kind of just show.
Here, I can bump up your mic ever so slight.
Oh, okay, good. So
yeah.
The Tonex, my business partner, I have a full-time film editor, and he's also adept at many, many things, including drum programming. And I said, hey, load up the Tonex in my laptop, get it going. And our strategy, I learned it from a friend. We're loading in all the most liked presets on the web right now. And so I just don't have the bandwidth to figure out, new software every single day of my life. So that's why the laptop's not in front of me, but it's kind of interesting. The Tonex, I think it's a good thing, I really do.
Nice. Yeah, I'm hearing good things about that Tonex stuff.
Yeah.
Modern Vintage asks, Tim, what are some things hobbyists care about that pros don't regarding gear, rigs, and so on? What pieces of gear do you regret letting go of the most?
Oh, I let go of a Wolfgang, Music Man Wolfgang Eddie Van Halen guitar that actually used to belong to him, and I should have kept that. It was red, the PV style, Axis PV Axis style, or no Music Man, no the Ernie Ball Axis style. So I regret letting go of that. Really, I don't have a lot of regrets. Generally, over time, the irony of over time, I've been able to upgrade pretty much everything. I mean, these new Les Pauls are better than the older Les Pauls that I had. Yeah, I don't really regret anything. The first part of your question is a little more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that hobbyists do is, like, there have been times in my life when I felt like the tone was always just out of reach. And then you get to a certain point where you realize, oh, I can get this tone, I can get that tone, I can get this tone, that tone. At a certain point, and especially today, I mean, even talking about the Tonex, something as simple as that, it's pretty easy to get all the tones these days. And then you're just faced with, now I have to make good music. Now I have to play good. Now I have to have a good touch. Now I have to have a good rhythm. Now I have to have good timing. So probably the worst thing that hobbyists do, different than pro musicians almost don't care what their gear is because they know they have to get the job done no matter what. So they'll pull a sound out of whatever's in their hands and make it work. And a hobbyist doesn't have that. They have the luxury of kind of obsessing about the gear without having to pay the mortgage by getting a job done for somebody and getting paid for doing work that the person that hires you doesn't really care what you're using. I mean, that's a great thing about today is as a guitar player, whoever hires you, they don't really care what gear you're bringing as long as you get the job done. Anyway, I hope that answers your question.
I think it did.
Yeah.
Now, I think this is a loaded question. I think we already covered this, but he's late. Michael Torin says, question for Tim Pierce. Why did you sell your VH4?
Oh, it was taking up too much space. And now think about that. It was taking up too much space. I got mad at. There's a guy on YouTube who is about to get rid of all his tube amps because they're taking too much space, and he likes all the digital stuff. So I got mad at him the other day. Here I am saying the same thing. It's funny. Most of the sounds I go for are classic Marshall or classic. This is kind of like Fender Vox, or this is classic Marshall, or this. I have a Vox AC15 right here. And then the Bad Cats are the sounds I go for are not that high gain, and that VH4 was great for my career when I was having to come up with those sounds just spontaneously for somebody who wanted. I still love it, and I do miss it, but it's something that's gettable again. If I sell something that's gettable,
Mm-hmm.
I don't regret it. Oh man, RJ, we have a heavyweight here. If I sell something that's gettable, I don't regret it. And now I feel like my Bad Cat Link gets me the high gain sound that I want. And all the in between sounds, frankly, are better from all these amps than from the VH4. The VH4 is, it's both its virtue and the greatest criticism of it is that it's basically, it lacks character. Every channel, it's almost like an open source blank page of what it's representing. And the clean channel, so it's great in that way. You can shape it with pedals, and having 4 channels. I mean, it's a great amp. I will always be a fan, and I might get another one someday. I mean, when I first met Tom Bukovac, that was a big part of his rig, was a VH4, and of course that went. So I don't know. It's great that it's not here anymore. Almost because it's forced me to try some new stuff too. It's forced me, like I had to find. I actually had a moment of oops, because I thought I don't have a high gain amp, and then Bad Cat brought me this Lynx, and I love it. It's maybe a little creamier and warmer than the VHT, which goes back to what I just said, because the VHT was a real favorite of some producers because it actually sounded a little bit cold.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounded like modern music for a while. So anyway,
Sure.
there you go.
Keith H, thank you very much for the super sticker. Appreciate it, my friend. And Kurt 5150, thank you. He says, great guest tonight. Great topics. Thank you.
Oh, can I say something? So RJ, if you're listening, so I watched Corey Congilio's show in Nashville. There's a video of it. And
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of that show, RJ takes the perfect guitar solo. It's like, okay, this is like the best guitar solo I've ever heard. It was amazing. I don't know if you know which solo it was. It's on an R&B song, and it was, you played it live in the club, and it was absolutely perfect. And it was like, that's what I would play if I could. So sorry to embarrass you, but man,
That was a great set.
amazing.
Ryan 0812 says, Tim, what's your absolute favorite song you played on? That's a tough one. And have you ever played a trans trem guitar?
No, I've never played a trans trem guitar, but I love stuff like that. I really, really do. Favorite song is probably Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls. I mean, if I hear that song on the radio, I love the song. I love the whole experience of it. Then it would be Don't Dream It's Over by Crowded House after that. And then some of the heavy metal stuff I did on Shinedown. There's a song called Bully on Shinedown's record that still I love listening to. And then some of the Toy Matinee stuff. There's a song called Queen of Misery on that record that I love. So I could think of more probably, but those are
Nice.
4 or 5 of them.
Awesome. Great Van Zini with a super chat. He says, just because these shows keep getting better and better. Thank you.
Awesome.
I appreciate that. Let's see here. Richard Nagamitsu asked, do you like newer Les Pauls because you've upgraded them, excepting the Murphy Lab? Or is it they're just better built?
I like newer Les Pauls probably because they're going to be more affordable, or that's debatable at this point. But the frets are going to be good and the necks are going to be good. And I don't necessarily like a new Les Paul. I want a Les Paul that's right around 8 pounds. Well, I bought this because it's 7 pounds, 13 ounces. So I didn't want Cherry Sunburst, but I liked the flame. I liked the weight. So 2 out of 3 meant that I went for it. It was still too expensive. I mean, I'm having a Heritage built right now that I'm really looking forward to. I've specified the weight. And if you look at Heritage Les Pauls on the internet, they're $4,000. I really am a bit offended by the fact that Les Pauls are always $7,000-8,000 now. That being said, there's nothing like it. And the Murphy Lab, it's sitting right over there that I bought, is phenomenal. It's a little heavier than this one, but it sounds like music. I put it in my hands at Sweetwater and was like, I have to leave with this guitar. So it's it's a double-edged sword because the Les Pauls, something about the mid-range, the compactness of the sound has always been really good for me. So I hope I didn't stray away. I just like new guitars because they're more perfect. And like I said, I want every guitar I have, I want the neck to be absolutely perfect.
Yep.
No compromise, no excuses, no nothing. Perfect.
Sure.
Done. And medium or jumbo frets. I'm just done with, it's it's got a little problem of it's like, nah, I want perfect.
Sure. Makes sense to me. Vanilla Slice, he's got 4 questions, he says.
Ah.
In a sense. Favorite Hendrix tune, SRV tune, Mr. tune, and Phil Collins tune.
Okay, so Hendrix is probably Power of Love off Machine Gun, and then you go back to there's so many beautiful ones, oh my God. I really like the delicate, oh no, I know what it is. Hands down, I forgot. Wind Cries Mary is absolutely my favorite Hendrix song ever. Stevie Ray Vaughan is not somebody that I connected with. And so you'd have to have somebody answer that question. Somebody else answer that question.
I'm going to go with Scuttlebutton for SRV because it's just off the hook. It's fast, insane.
My favorite Phil Collins song, Another Day in Paradise, probably. I did a bunch of records with Phil Collins, but that's probably one of my favorite songs of his. Yeah, that one really I thought was amazing. And I think there was one more that you asked about.
Mr.
Oh my God, it's Kyrie Eleison, I like Broken Wings, but Kyrie, how do you pronounce it? Kyrie Eleison. That's my favorite.
I believe so.
Thanks for asking. I love talking about songs. I mean, that's my whole thing. I picked up this instrument to play songs, and that's still my favorite thing.
Sure. Get it. And apparently the VHT or the VH4 is still in the San Fernando Valley, I saw. Okay.
You kidding me? Really?
Apparently. According to Michael Torin. I'm like, wait a minute, does Michael Torin live in the valley and does he own it?
Well, there is one regret. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, RJ, I'm going to tell you all about Dan Huff. That's great. Thank you. There is one regret I do have about that VH4. Okay, I do have a regret about it. When I bought it like 15 years ago, I got it for $2,800. I thought I'll never be able to afford one of these amps. And then it was on eBay for $2,800, and the ad said Mullard preamp tubes. And I thought, well, I'm going to spend it. And this thing sounded amazing the minute I got it, and it sounded amazing for 15 years. And I wonder if part of it was that special set of tubes. So there's a regret. So RJ, have I ever crossed paths or worked with Dan Huff? I think you missed the first part of this. I had the pleasure of sitting next to him here in LA on a record, and I was astounded at his talent. And then I had the pleasure of sitting next to him on a record in Nashville in the 90s, and I was even more astounded at his talent. And then he hired me to play on a Rascal Flatts record that was out here, so I spent a week being his guitar player on a Rascal Flatts record, which was incredible. And the great thing was he was on the road, so he couldn't go home at night, so I got to have dinner with him every night, and it was an incredible experience. There's nobody better. He said to me at the beginning of the session, he said, a lot of guitar players, when they get around me, they might kind of clam up a little bit. And I started laughing at him. It was like, you don't, that's not what happens. When you're with somebody who's same with John Shanks, when you're with somebody who's a great musician and a great guitar player, they solve all your problems for you. It's like they say, hey, that sounds great, just clean it up a little bit. Or they say, great, just play an eighth note part of it. They solve all your problems for you. It's like being, on a big magic carpet. So it was awesome. And I'll tell you one thing, RJ, when I was with him in Nashville, we were working up I watched him work up an R&B part, and the extrapolation of where he started and where he ended up in about 60 seconds or 2 minutes was frightening. How quickly he developed this amazing guitar part. So, yeah, he's incredible.
Nice. Yeah, he seems like a great guy too. Like watching that interview with Bukovac today, I was just like, "Yep, he's one of the good guys." You know.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And for him, it's all about the music. You can tell.
Well, that's it too. I mean, his business, he gave up the session career. He completely gave it up to be a producer. And then that it's just about the songs. Mm-hmm. Everything else is in service of that. And my love of music comes from 60s top 40 radio, and it's still basically in place. So guitar for me is part of, it's all context. And so I love guitar in songs, you know, so that's it. And I did work with Glenn Campbell Ryan. Yeah, I did records here. Like there's the last Ghost on the Canvas, and I even played the Grammys with his last Grammy award show with him. It's really amazing. My favorite song of all time is Wichita Lineman by Glenn Campbell. I probably said that last time we were together, but that's my favorite. If you ask me, what's your favorite record of all time? It's Wichita Lineman by Glenn Campbell. And if you'd have told me when I was a kid that I was going to actually be working with him and doing the Grammys with him, I would have like passed out. You know how they go.
Hey, if you told me I was going to be talking to the guy who played on "Don't Dream It's Over," I'd pretty close. So I get it, Tim. I honestly, I get it. I love it. My sister is back. That's nice. Hey, Amanda. My niece is in bed. That's good. Martin would like to buy you a coffee at NAMM.
Well, that'd be great.
He's coming all the way from Austria for his first NAMM show.
Oh my, that's really nice.
One of his favorites.
I'm pretty. I am always alone on the NAMM floor. Although I wasn't alone. I wasn't alone last time. But I tend to move quickly by myself a lot. So just look for me, grab me, and I may not have time for a cup of coffee, but I'll have time for a conversation. So
nice.
NAMM last year was super small, and this year there's even less vendors, so it's going to be really fun. I had the best time of my life last NAMM, and I think it's even going to be more fun. It's just smaller, it's funner, it's really cool.
I agree.
You'll have a great time.
Tim Corder, thanks for the super chat. He says, Tim, who is a non-guitarist musician you suggest a guitar player listen to for inspiration in playing melodically and with emotion?
Well, I might have to think about that for a second. I don't know that I can answer you yet. Let me just hold that. And
that's a good.
I'll try and put it over here in this part of the brain and think about it, because I never really did that. Oh, I'm going to listen to Wayne Shorter. I'm going to listen to I just never really did that. So sorry.
I'm just gonna throw it out there because it was the first non-guitar player I thought of, and with emotion, Dr. John.
Wow,
love Dr.
cool.
John.
Cool.
Texas Blues Alley. Good to see you, Anthony. Is there a style of music you haven't played on yet that you'd love to play on at some point in your career?
Anthony, thank you for asking. No, there isn't, because I spent 40 years doing session work, and I played so many styles of music that I don't have any business playing, that got it out of my system. I could say jazz, but I don't have the skills. So I can't speak that language. I could say classical, but I don't have the skills. I do have an answer for you. I have very little skill as a finger picking guitar player, and you caught me. I do have, I'm so jealous when I see people play well with the right hand finger style. That's just, yep, you got me. I want to do that. I want to be better with this hand. I want to play better finger style guitar. Absolutely. And not for classical music, just for anything. I mean, it's like anybody who just wails with their right hand without a pick, or the pick gets, hidden here, any style, electric, acoustic. I just would love to be better at it. Great question. And I almost kind of skirted it, but then I realized I had to come clean.
There is something I haven't done yet. Yes, there we are. Nice.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anthony. I love you. I love your channel, and I love your work, actually.
And Lauren from L. Scott Music says, "Hey Tim, I met you at Blue Guitar last NAMM. It was a nice talk." See, there we go.
Oh, I hope so. I mean, it's pretty intense there, isn't it? Right? Oh, right. Take the Mary Spender fingerstyle course. I should, because that's I'm definitely at low intermediate level in that zone, or even lower.
And thank you, Terry, for posting a link to Tim's YouTube channel as well as his website, which I definitely recommend you check out. Tim's got a great master class with 150 hours you're up to at this point.
Yeah, it's a quite a collection, and there's a 2-week free trial, so you can just check it out if you want. We have a lot of people, and it's the love of my life at this point. It's my priority, and I love doing it.
Michael Easter says, "I've just discovered Greg Koch and love him repicking styles." Greg has a very...
he's got the, he's just, he can wail with his right hand, man.
Just scrolling back in case I missed Sean's question, because he told me it's coming. Oh, no, he still hasn't mentioned it yet. Okay, that's fine. Oh, wait. Did I miss it there?
Yes, I still have the Vayette Griffin. I had other ones that I sold because he kept sending me guitars and I kept buying them, and I didn't need most of them. But the Vayette Griffin, it's still phenomenal, and I have 2 other small ones. So I've got 3 of the tiny ones. But the Griffin is the one, the Vayette Griffin. That's the one.
Nice.
It's just amazing, and I still have it. Yeah, I'll never let that go, ever. That somebody asked about gear for the rest of your life, Vayette Griffin, and there is a Indonesian one that's great too, and Joe vouches for that one. So really
very cool. I found Sean's question here, and by the way, great show last night, Sean. Thanks for coming on. He was last night's guest, and we had an absolute blast. And he's a great guy, fellow YouTuber, and he was asking, where did it go here? There it is. What kind of recommendations would Tim make if a player wanted to make inroads to the session world? Is the market saturated from your perspective?
For the most part, the session world is gone. It doesn't exist. It's sporadic. There's a gentleman named Andrew Sinowick who works every hour of every day in LA doing all kinds of sessions. Outside of Andrew here on the West Coast, it's just a smattering of people. There are more full-time session guitar players in Nashville. RJ could tell you about that, but it's not really I don't think it's a career worth pursuing anymore, because only the best of the best are going to get all the calls, and it's going to be very hard. You're going to be in the middle somewhere, and it's going to be sporadic. I think the best philosophy is to do everything you can as a guitar player, which is play live, teach, do sessions, compose music, get sync licenses, get commercials, just go tour. You have to look at the entire ecosystem. It has to be a global 360 kind of thing at this point. There's just not enough. There's not a critical mass of work in a particular. Ask somebody from Nashville. There are a few. There are guys who do demos, and then there are a few guys who do some of the records. But I think even there, it's not quite as full time. Now, that being said, you don't want it to be full time. I did it full time for too long, and it's hard to be that inspired every day. So it's almost better if it is sporadic. So take what I said with a grain of salt, because you're almost better off if you're doing it not all the time, because you show up with more fire. Really.
Sure. Jim Cox has an interesting super chat here. Thank you, Jim. Talk about software a bit. Is Mac/Logic Pro the only way to go?
I think it changes depending on your age and what you've grown up with. Because I have always used Macs and I've always used Pro Tools, I'm lightning fast on the things in Pro Tools that I need to make my music. And that's, 10 or 12 moves that are lightning fast, and then maybe another 10 or 12 moves that are fast. And there's no reason for me to learn any other software, because I can get all my music done in Pro Tools. Now, if you're a composer, you might want to learn Ableton. So the way to go is what you and your peers at your age in your particular era are making music with.
Makes sense to me. Yeah. Modern Vintage says or asks, Tim, Many hobbyists have moved from modelers IRs to amps with IRs. What do you feel, hear, and notice is still missing or not close to amp with a mic cab?
So I have never used an IR that I'm aware of in my life. I have been offered some of the Captor X, and I had the aux box here. I've always had a blast area, so I've always done real recording.
Mm-hmm.
I love artificial sounds. I have an FM9 sitting here. I use the Kemper in sessions a lot. I use the OX a lot. I just got a Tone X that I'm going to pull sounds out of. I love artificial sounds, but I don't really want to know how they're made. I want to turn the box on, dial in an amp sound, and start working. So I'm not the guy. In other words, you're the guy who's going to tell me what the best IR is, and then it's going to be in the box. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to turn the knob. I'm going to start playing guitar. So it's just not me. I have mics and amps and cabinets, and I have a blast area. Very few people have the ability to have a jet engine loud amp at home. And I just, I always kind of built a vault or something. I always kind of was stubborn about that. So.
Speaking of which, Michael Lee asks, have you ever measured the decibels in the blast room?
No, but I mean, just imagine your ear in front of a 412 Marshall with a 100-watt head going through it. I have 6 412s in my blast room. I only use one at a time, but it's jet engine loud. It's stadium loud. So it's whatever, 110 decibels or whatever. It's the amp, and even this divided by 13 is too loud to be next to. Even this 15-watt box, for me at this point, I wouldn't want to be next to the actual cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
It's old school. I mean, the world is headed. It's just getting. I love artificial sounds. I just don't know how to make them. I know how to use them. I know how to turn the box on and start playing guitar. So, anyway.
Sure, I get it. I'm the same way. L&M Guitar Corner. Speak of which, late night in Austria. It's good to see that you made it, Martin. What record you've recorded was the one that felt the most challenging to you?
Well, I was challenged by everything because you're there to dazzle people, and you're there to make their dreams come true in minutes. Mm-hmm. And so even if it was a simple song, it was even like more challenging because then you have to try and elevate this thing that maybe was hard to elevate. I don't, the Toy Matinee record that I did was the closest thing to prog rock that I ever did. Mm-hmm. But some of the sessions I did that were challenging, I did these big Disney theme park sessions where Chad Wackerman and Bob Wackerman were the rhythm section, and the charts were 9 pages. You'd have to set out 3 music stands. The only way I did it, they'd send me everything in advance, and I'd study the heck out of it. But that music was not. I wouldn't have you listen to any of it. You'd hear it in the theme park, and you hear some guitar going by and whatever. So those were probably the most challenging sessions, because even as much as I prepared, you can't prepare for that much music. Mm-hmm. And the charts were like 9 pages. It was just crazy.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
And Chad Wackerman is like, it's sight reading everything perfectly. It's a different kind of musician. Funny.
Thank you for the super chat. Boner Jam says, thanks for the invite to hang out with all the cool kids. Happy Monday to all. Great show, Ben. Well, Tim has something to do with it. I'm just
so nice. So nice. Sorry to have a drink of water here.
All good. David asks, did you know Michael Hedges?
Never, no. I saw him live, though. Oh, my. I see you're triggering an amazing memory. I went down and waited in line down at the beach somewhere with my wife and saw him live in a small, tiny little place. Oh, I'm so lucky I got to see him. Gosh, he was just so amazing. Oh, never met him, though. I did meet Tommy Manuel. I took a guitar master class of his. I sat right up front. It was amazing.
Nice.
Amazing.
I wondered, now, did Tommy go, what are you doing here? I just see that. What's going on?
So fun looking at all the names and questions. Really fun.
Texas Blues Alley. Have you been recording those cabs enough that you can intuitively place the mics in the sweet spots without having to run back and forth to the control room?
Pretty much. I get lucky. I have a friend who he did this thing where we would check the waveform. If you take one mic and record it in your DAW and take the other mic and record it in your DAW, you can match the waveforms and get the phase perfect. And when you do that, you're golden. But I can pretty much get it done just by eyeballing it. Yeah, at this point.
Nice.
You just have to remember where the actual the actual microphone is. It's not where the cover is. So the actual face of the microphone. Yeah, that's where you have to match them. And I always do the 57, like where the paper meets the cone. And then the large diaphragm mic can go a lot of different places, but you don't want harsh top end. You can always dial in more top end at the amp, but the cone can give you a harsh top end. So if it sounds harsh, just move away from the cone and you're good. And try and match where the actual diaphragm of the microphone is, not where the cover of the microphone is. Match those two diaphragms and you're good.
Exactly. And Vanilla Slay says, Tommy is the reason I donned a thumb pick. Well, there we are.
Wonderful.
What's wrong with that?
So we all have so many people we learn from at this point in time. God, so wonderful.
Quentin James says, Tim Pierce, what a legend and way nicer than me. Well, I've interviewed Quentin James. I've interviewed Tim Pierce, and I'm going to agree with you, Quentin. We love Quentin.
Oh.
The Lord of Louisville. He's a character.
It's
John
funny.
Duchesne says, everyone should check out Tim's masterclass. I use it, and it's awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to you and to all the members. And it's just the love of my life at this point. Really, really enjoying it.
I feel the same. I say all the time, I'm living a dream where I get to talk to people, talk gear, and get answers to stuff you've wondered about for years on occasion. It's
wonderful.
It's great. With the whole YouTube thing, people break down. So they ever want, how did that guy get that tone on that song? And chances there's a video on it.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I had to learn. A friend of mine had a birthday party last night, and I had to learn a couple of U2 songs. And there's a U2 tutorial channel, and that got me there and quickly, and then we did Black Dog too, which I already know, but it's always good to refresh on that. It's pretty good moments.
Michael Easter loves your live streams on Saturdays as well. So do I.
Oh, thank you. Those are a real pleasure. I actually research heavily for those. I spend, I really try and prepare for them. And I'm so nervous when I do those that I play a little too safe on the guitar. That's my only problem, because I don't want a permanent mistake. And so I play a little safe on the guitar, but the conversation I really enjoy, and I always really, really research heavily, so I can usually speak somewhat knowledgeably about what I'm talking about. And the funny thing is, I always find something interesting. I did an AC/DC one last week, and I couldn't find anything, and then I found it, and it was one of the most interesting things I've ever found about a musician. I found this little interview with Angus, and it's just amazing. It made me fall in love with him. So check it out.
He was playing a little SG Junior there during the interview, because I've never seen him with a Junior. I always see him with an actual SG, and there he is with a Junior.
What he says about his style and why he plays the way he does and his humility, it's just phenomenal. It's just incredible.
That's true. Well, we got a few minutes left here, folks. Do you have a preview on your upcoming topic for your next live stream, or is it still?
No, I don't. It's more like I struggle to find the next topic, and then it appears, and then you just have to hit the ground and hope that people will be interested in it. But
love it.
I can always go back to Billy Gibbons. I can always go back to Leonard Skinner. I can go back. There's lots of like legacy musicians, but I'd like to do some new people too. I'm going to do some reaction videos on new people too, moving forward.
Love it.
Copy. I'm just going to copy Rhett Shull on every video I do. They'll make RJ laugh.
I like that.
I'm just going to copy Rhett Shull.
There we go. All right. One last question there. Have you ever worked or met Mutt Lange?
No. And can we stay another 15 minutes? I don't want to stop. Is that okay?
I'm not going to complain. Twist
Okay,
that rubber
I'll
arm,
have
Tim.
time. I have a dinner schedule, but I can stay. I can be a little late. I never did meet Mutt Lange, but I can tell you about him. He was very hard on guitar players because he's a perfectionist and an amazing musician and guitar player himself. And the story Dan Huff tells about him is that Dan would go to Switzerland and work for him, and Dan would go, dude, you're having me play this part like you would play it. Why don't you just play it? You don't need me to come here and play this part that's in your mind that you're having me execute. So then Dan handed it off. Next time Mutt called Dan, he handed it off to Book, and Book went and they had a great time. The other guy, Michael Thompson here, went and had a great time with him. So pretty heavy guys went and did the Bukovac thing. But then a Nashville guitar player told me privately that he did a session with Mutt, and it was just too, he felt like it was playing him like a keyboard. You know, he turned this guitar player into too much of a robot. It wasn't his taste. So it's apparently it's very surgical and very methodical and very intensive when you play guitar for Mutt Lange.
Well, and I've gathered from our conversation, you do have at least a passing friendship with Mr. Bukovac. How did you first come across Tom?
Well, I'd heard of him, and we got to do a Rob Thomas record out here together where we tracked together. And then even, I gotta love Matt Zerletic for this, he even had us overdub together in the control room together. Ooh. It was amazing. And I was completely floored by, he's kind of in a different league than I am as a studio guitar player. His ability to come up with parts and sounds and tones. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd never seen anything like it. Except for Dan Huff. And so that's the thing. If you come up with the best Beatles part and sound in the bridge, and then you come up with the best Daniel Lanois part and sound in the outro, and then you come up with the best, Killers part in the intro, and then you play the acoustic guitar and there are harmonics just pouring off of the way your hands hit the guitar, you go, oh, that guy's actually in a different league. And I'm not being humble. It's just a sports coach kind of definition of when you see somebody with that kind of, it's not that he's gifted as much as that his love for music is so huge, and his commitment to actually Tom Bukovac is really hard on himself, and he's made himself amazing by just never compromising and being in love with music more than anybody else on the planet. You see all that when you work with somebody and you go, oh, that's why he's, getting called for everything all the time. Mm-hmm. So, it was amazing. Rob Thomas is the nicest rock star ever. So it was an amazing record.
He seems like it.
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah.
Never heard a bad thing about him.
Yeah.
Modern Vintage, thank you for the super chat. He says, where can we find part 2 of your Shanks rig rundown?
That never happened. So we did that right before COVID, and all of the footage ended up kind of buried on a hard drive somewhere. My mistake was mentioning that there would be a part 2. So I would say, just go look at everybody else's YouTube videos and pretend that that's the part 2.
There we go.
Because it's funny. I don't know that there was enough there to do a part 2. Maybe there was. Yeah, maybe I should go back there and look at that stuff. It's funny. It's like I can come up with an answer to a question that's kind of bulletproof, and then at the end of my answer, I go, well, wait a second, you're just kind of like avoiding the issue here. So you caught me again. It's like there is some stuff on that hard drive. We did that, like, that's crazy. That actual rig rundown we did the first week of the pandemic, and it was kind of like we were all kind of staying a few feet away. I don't remember the first week before the lockdown. It was like we were staying like a few feet away from each other going, oh, this is going to be serious. But it's not going to be too bad. And then, whoa, 2 years later. So anyway, great question. I'll try. Yeah. Yeah, probably, I don't know if I can even find that stuff. So there you go.
Oh, here we are. Terry's 3G asks, Tim, thoughts on instruments, or we'll even say guitars, with more or less strings than 6?
I don't really spend much time listening to those people, so I don't really have thoughts. I had Mason Stoops over here recently, and he's a wonderful guitar player. He's 31, and he's on tour with Jackson Browne as his lead guitar player. And he also did Marcus Mumford. And he talked about how, and I really related to him. So it's, you meet somebody, you know, half your age. He talked about how there is so much on guitar, even just in the first position. That's kind of the guy I am. I'm still trying to get this thing better. And so I love the sound of seven-string guitars. But, you know, I have to play to my strengths, you know, moving forward. And that's just trying to, you know, get these 6 strings.
I get it. That's right. Vanilla Slice. You can melt faces in the first position. I agree.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I love 12-string guitars, you know, but that's different. You know, I think you're talking about some more esoteric stuff, and I mean, not that guy. There are guys who are that guy. I know them, some of them.
Have you ever played any Eastman guitars?
I have one. I got the blue one. That's the hollow body. I did a video about it, and it's wonderful. It has gold foil pickups.
Right.
And the most amazing vibrato arm that just is a retrofit to this stop tailpiece right here. It's great. Now they sent it to me, and I had to give it back to them because the neck had some issues. Now going back to what I said earlier in this, I could, when I pulled strings up here, the neck had some issues. So I had them actually repair the neck, and then they sent it back to me, and I did my video. But it's a beautiful guitar. It sounds unique. Really well made. It's got medium jumbo frets, and this vibrato arm. I mean, it's called a Godot, but Godot from Germany does this vibrato arm, and it's phenomenal. And I could literally put it on here. It would just go boop into
it's like Duesenberg. Duesenberg was doing them.
Similar, yeah. I think they do. But my Duesenberg, which Tom Bukovac got me, you know, not to. My Duesenberg has a different vibrato on it. It's also great. This one, man, you'd really, really like it. Yeah, I can vouch for that guitar. I really can. It's good.
Nice.
They really try and keep the quality really high.
Have you ever tried a Sire guitar?
I'm gonna. We're all talking about those guitars. I'm gonna, and I like the fact. Okay, so this was my qualifier for that. I want to do guitars that are made in Indonesia, and I don't want to do guitars that are made in China. Even though, you know, we all have to use a lot of Chinese products, but I'm not going to show guitars that are made in China. I love, you see people, the way they live in Indonesia. It's good. I can back Indonesian manufacturing, and Korean manufacturing, and so yes, I'm going to. The problem with Sires is the one I want is out of stock. I mean, Sweetwater, if I'm on the list, you know, to be notified, you know, I want the Larry Carlton one that looks like Larry's guitar to show that. So I'm going to try him.
Nice. Randy Church says, "Great show, Ben and Tim. Sir, thank you for being you. Much love from Southern Illinois." Nice.
Thank you. This is a real pleasure. So everybody's so nice.
See here.
It's funny when you have a
Streamliner from Indonesia. Fantastic playing guitar. Yeah, I believe that's where mine's made. Plays great.
Yeah, well, you guys, I mean, the PRS DGT SE really is amazing. So, you know, it's Indonesian. It's amazing.
Yeah, it seems like pretty much, you know, for the price point, and that's why a lot of times, you know, people say, well, you know, this guitar, you know, it's not built well. I'm like, well, it retails for $300. Like, you can only put so much time and effort into it, you know, and still be able to make money on it. So
true. I don't know how some of these companies do it. Well, I do know how, but yeah, the Indonesian guitars and the Korean guitars are great.
Ooh, there's one from Smart Mammal. Tim, have you ever played Red Rocks?
Oh, I did. And please just give me 1 minute to talk about this, because I had just gotten my gig with Rick Springfield, and I'd moved from Albuquerque, and I was proving to my parents that I could make it on my own in LA. And they came up from Albuquerque, and they came to Red Rocks, and I did a concert with Rick Springfield. And Red Rocks has an amazing feature. There's a tunnel underneath the audience where you can take the tunnel all the way to the mixing desk. So in the middle of Rick's show, he does an acoustic set that's 15 minutes. I'm on stage. My parents are watching. I go through the tunnel. I go sit with my parents and watch Rick do his acoustic segment at the desk out in the middle of the audience. And just with just enough time to get back on stage myself, I disappear, go back through the tunnel. And the tunnel, I mean, goes all the way up underneath the audience to the mixing desk. And both of my parents are now passed away. So that was to give that to my mom, because I was kind of a screw up, and to show my parents that I actually was on stage in front of 9,000 people, doing a gig, being an adult, and I'd moved out and they weren't going to have to support me anymore. It's awesome.
Speaking of which, how nice a guy is Rick Springfield?
Oh, he's great. And he still is a rock star, doing well out there, making great music. And I actually see him a lot, actually. Just we're friends. We had a dear friend.
He came across as a great guy.
Yeah, he is a great guy. Saw him about 3 weeks ago.
Nice.
It's awesome. And he's he's a rock star, and he's still, still the best.
I just think the amount of times I hear your interviews of people, they're recording in the studio in LA and Rick stops by,
Well, he created a real camaraderie. Everybody was an equal out on the road. And it's not that way anymore. I mean, gosh, I just looked at video of Taylor Swift's new concert, which is the most phenomenal thing you've seen, from somebody's iPhone up in the nosebleed seats. It wouldn't matter. There's no bad seat at a Taylor Swift concert because it's so phenomenally huge in its scope. But the musicians are a very tiny part of it. And this new era, musicians are not as important with pop stars. And in his case, he wanted to present us kind of like equals, and we were like, his model for rock and roll was the Who. So even though he was a pop star, we played Jesse's Girl. It was Marshall JSM 800s turned up loud. It was like we were equals in the band. So that era is not quite as in place as it was. I mean, I did see on that Taylor Swift concert, Paramore opened up, and they were phenomenal. And they were, they were just a band in front of the giant screen. Yeah, check out on YouTube some footage of her concert. It's just like, it's crazy.
Nice. Awesome. How long were you on the road before you decided to, okay, this is enough?
Oh, it happened quick. I did 4 world tours with Rick, and about halfway through, I realized that it was not something I wanted to continue. So when he took a pause, I stopped touring. And I got offers. I mean, when I worked with Phil Collins, he offered me the tour immediately, and I said no. And when I worked with Joe Cocker, they offered me the tour. They offered me more money. I said no. They offered me more money. I said no. And I actually, at a certain point, I regretted that, but not really. I wanted to be in the laboratory, and I wanted to build a clientele in LA as a session musician. So you sacrifice the road money for being available for producers and artists and songwriters and composers. And it worked for me. I just didn't like the 22 hours of dead time out there. And that's really what it is.
Right.
22 hours of dead time a day.
You're either going to buy a lot of gear and have to ship it home, or you're going to develop bad habits, probably.
And the bad habits are easy to develop back in the 80s, for sure.
Yeah. Especially yes. I will say that. And the bonus is you get to sleep in your own bed each night, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, there are ways to do it. We did the last tour we did with Rick. He did charter a plane, and we didn't want to come home from that. Like if you're in the Foo Fighters, they have their own plane, and they shuttle out of Paris to do the gig in, the small towns, and that is not a problem when you're at that level. It's actually quite nice, but you have to be earning a ton of money to do that.
Richard says, was road money more than session work?
That's a difficult question because it's all what the market will bear. And for me, when I became successful as a session musician, the session work was exponentially better money
Mm-hmm.
because of royalties and yeah, just by the hour, just better. Yeah.
Sure.
Exponentially better.
Nice. Nice. Well, we'll go with one last question here. How about Eric Johnson's Strat? Best year. Do you have an opinion?
I've never played one, so I do apologize about that. My Stratocasters have always been boutique. I mean, I had performance guitar Strats in the 80s, and then I went to Tom Anderson, and then I went to Nash. Now I'm gathering Stratocasters from other builders. So the Fender thing was always a little bit, I have a couple of great friends who are at Fender. So I've done Fenders recently, but I go for the boutique guitars, You know what? The Landau Fender guitars are just drool worthy. There was one at LA Vintage Guitar that I wanted, but I did the test. I lowered the action, and the neck had a problem up here, and so I didn't buy it, but I wanted it. I'd love a Landau Stratocaster.
That'd be nice.
I really would.
All right, one last one there. Graphite cigars, what strings and picks do you like to use?
Oh, that's a great question because I can actually answer it. Okay. I switched to elixirs at a certain point, and I've even tried, I love the guys at Diodario. I've even tried their coated strings, but they don't feel as good. The elixir coating is my thing, and the strings last for months. I can trust that when I pick up the guitar, they're going to be fresh. And for me, it's a real issue because I was the guy who would ruin strings in minutes. If I was nervous and playing an acoustic guitar, I would turn the string black on the first fret within 45 minutes. And then the string is kind of ruined. It doesn't tune up as well. So I had to have a solution. I had to go to elixirs. Any coated string will solve this problem for you. But for me, the elixirs still feel the best. I've tried to do the Ardarios. Okay, so picks, I use different picks. Don't have one sitting here, but I use a Dunlop nylon 60 millimeter for acoustic because it's like a feather. And then for R&B stuff, I'll use a medium pick of any kind. And I've switched just recently. I used to use this Dunlop sharp pick Tortex with a sharp point.
Right. Yeah.
But now I've switched to this big triangle, and now I'm enjoying this. So the thing about picks, I think you should have seasons of your life with different picks, and just change it up and see what works for you at a given time, and then change it up again. Because this big triangle, I think I can get fast on it. And the thing I like about it is I'm trying to learn how to do this thing that you guys all do,
right?
Where you store the pick between, your index finger and this finger, and it's easier for me to do that with this pick. So that's where I'm at right now. These big triangles. It's a Tortex, 73 millimeter.
Beautiful.
And the 60's good also. So guys, I guess we're about to wrap up. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I want to shout out. We got another heavy hitter in the chat, Mike Bradley. Great to see you, brother.
Oh, Mike, I love you're amazing, dude. You make me laugh and you play great. This is incredible. I'm a big fan. Oh gosh, your videos are incredible.
You got to reach out to Mike. It's been a while. I got to talk to him. He says just got back from a gig. That would explain why he's up this time of night. Perfect.
Oh man, I watch your videos and they're amazing. Well done.
Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for doing this, as always, Tim. And we'll definitely have to do another one down the road at some point. We'll give the fans a bit of a respite this time. We'll give them a bit of a respite this time.
Yeah.
But definitely fun times. And thanks everybody that tuned in tonight. Some great questions, great content, great questions.
And you made me think about some stuff that I need to think about and answer some questions that I was avoiding the answers to. So very nice. Very, very good. Almost like therapy. So thanks so much, guys.
I was thinking family reunion, answering the questions I don't necessarily want to answer, but
yeah.
Sure. Awesome. So just hold the line and we'll wrap things up. Thank you everybody that tuned in. I'll be back this Sunday with Charles 75N and Randy Crooks showing off his new fabric top Telecaster he had made. So that's going to be awesome.
Wow. Cool.
Have a great night. Hold those doors open, folks. Let that lady in heady in traffic do good things. So good things will happen to you because karma is real. Happy tone chasing. And of course, don't litter. Just don't, please.